want me to record?
Yes, please.
It only says end
Check,
stream.
check, check. Okay, well, this should be working then. Hello, hello. Greetings, everybody. We should be live. Hang on a second. Let me open up my stream here on my phone so I can check it out. Does it appear live yet? Should be public and comments are on. It says excellent condition. Check 1, 2. Oh, hang on. We might have a connection now. I just appeared on screen. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to my first live stream of 2025. Let me just check 1 second. Bear with me just to make sure that everything's indeed working before I get to the sauce. All right. What's up, everybody? We're going to be answering your questions in the chat below. So if you have any questions or comments or just general music production thoughts that you'd like me to discuss, I'm here to chat with you guys today. But other than that, we are celebrating the annual Reid Stefan birthday live stream at wholeloops.com. That means everything at Whole Loops is 50% off, whether you're shopping for drum kits, sauce presets, bundles, courses, or more. All you got to do is enter the promo code REID at checkout, that's R-E-I-D, and you'll get 50% off your entire order during the month of February 2025. And that's the sauce. I'm trying to view my own live stream on my phone here, but I'm having a hard time. Do I need to maybe like switch accounts? Let me try switching accounts and seeing if I can watch it from a different account. Oh, perfect. That's the sauce right there. Ooh, thank you guys for the birthday wishes. I see the comments rolling in. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. A very disrespectful birthday wish. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining me. So yeah, today we're here to talk about music production, mixing, mastering, and all of the sauce. So that's the sauce. Hopefully my audio sounds good and clear. Is it good? Nice. Should be. We got Todd Preston in the house. MAS Records, what's up? What's up? Kara's in the house. Nectesso, happy birthday. Thank you very much. La Cozy, happy birthday. Thank you guys. I really appreciate the birthday wishes. MAS Records says, I'm watching from Pakistan. Well, thank you for watching. Greetings from Las Vegas. Kara asks, what have I been up to lately? Well, I've been celebrating my birthday. You know, with a February birthday, I always like to go do a wintry activity, so this year I decided I wanted to go snowboarding. So Kara and I just got back from a little shred fest, I guess you could call it, on the mountain. So that was a good time. It's nice to kind of get your head out of the studio once in a while and do things that aren't on the computer. But we're back. Tan May says, hello from New Jersey. Welcome. Greetings from Las Vegas. I appreciate you guys for joining us. This is kind of like a surprise live stream, but I always like to do something special on my birthday, so here we are. Oh, we got the first question of the live stream. Todd Preston asks, Reid, I have an Apollo X8, and I'm not sure how to use it to its full capabilities. Any tutorials or direction you could point me in? Well, if you're looking to use your Apollo to its fullest of capabilities, you're going to want to look up tutorials on how to use Console. A lot of the plugins that you use on your Apollo, you have to purchase separately, but there are about 10 stock plugins that you get that you could use in Console to get started. So I would say look up Console app tutorials and maybe throw the word 2025 at the end of your search to see some recent ones. That's a great place to start. I highly recommend if you're using an Apollo to use the Console app for your headphone mix, and then when you're recording in whatever DAW you use, mute the channel while you're recording so you don't hear it twice, because you're already hearing yourself clear through the Apollo. Happy birthday from Draco. Thank you very much. Aquarius gang. Shout out to anybody else born in February. MAS Records asks, what is the best reverb? Man, if you're talking about vocals, I've been using the EMT 250 by UAD a lot. I've been using Verb Suite Classics a lot. And I've been using the Ableton stock reverb a lot too. I like that one. Those are probably my 3 most used. Black Hole by Eventide, if I had to pick a third one out of third-party plugins, I'd say Black Hole by Eventide. Great choices, can't go wrong with. I appreciate the birthday wishes, everybody. Thank you very much. You can definitely tell this puppet is getting old. No question about that. Let's get to some mixing questions. What's a good way to organize your kick drum with an 808? Do you do it with plugins or do you do it with audio? For me, I kind of do a combination of both. If I'm working with virtual instruments, I'll probably do it with plugins, but if I have the stems printed as audio, sometimes I just zoom in and do volume automation to kind of duck the bass when the kick happens. But if I'm using plugins, I'm probably going to sidechain my kick over to a Soothe 2 instance and pump it over the bass. Tanmay says, I understand you have pretty amazing presets for pretty much everything, but do you have any advice for breaking out of overly relying on presets? That's a good question. If you want to not rely on presets, the best way to do that would be to just start from the initial preset and really turn every knob until you understand what it does in relation to the other knobs, or create your own preset menu. You don't always need to go to a preset for something. You should have an idea in your head of what you want and how to sculpt that together with plugins, whether it's EQ or compression or whatever you think is lacking. So if you're trying to break out of the cycle of using the same old presets, either don't open the preset menu, or when you open it, maybe just scroll through it from the bottom up so you find some presets you don't normally use. Good question. Draco asks, do I have any thoughts on the Gold Clip plugin? Unfortunately, I haven't used Gold Clip yet, so no thoughts yet. Looks good, though. I appreciate the fact that they made a nice emulation for the Gold Clip, but I personally haven't tried it yet. Todd Preston asks, what's my favorite project I've done so far this year? Well, it's the beginning of February. Let's see. January, I did a really fun review of the M4 Max MacBook Pro with Kara, where we filmed an entire Logic session from scratch. And that means making the beat, writing the lyrics, recording the vocals, mixing it, mastering it, finishing touches in the production, everything in one Logic session with the buffer size at 32. We never even raised it. And I think that's like the most important takeaway from the entire video. And we had a lot of fun making it too. If you want to see that video, just look up M4 Max MacBook Pro Kara on YouTube and you'll find it. I helped film it and edit. Dre asks, what hardware is my go-to? Well, for mixing, I'm 100% in the box. I do not send recordings or stems or anything like that out of my computer through hardware. I only put plugins all the way to the very end. But when I'm recording, I use hardware every single time. Every microphone that I record, if I have a choice, is going to be going through a preamp / EQ. My favorite are the Neve 1073 emulations like BAE or Vintech. I don't do anything fancy with the EQ, but I do engage it so that the audio is hitting those extra transistors or transformers, or I don't know what the parts inside are called, but you want your sound going through that sauce, even if you're not boosting or reducing anything. And then from there, the signal goes through a compressor for some light compression. And with that, it could be an LA2A, TubeTech CL1B, it's probably the one I use the most, or an 1176, which we have here on the desk. And I have a mic off camera for this live stream. The one behind me is not the one you're hearing. I have one just next to the camera that you can't see. It's a Lewitt Ray, but the Lewitt Ray is going through my Vintech in my 1176. So when it comes to mixing, I'd say hardware is not essential. But when it comes to recording, I'd say hardware is still essential. You could do great, but man, is it so much easier to do great with hardware. I hope that answered your question. Kara got a shout out. Hello, Chicago Nation Business. Kara in the house. Shout out to Kara, absolutely. If you haven't watched her latest YouTube upload, go check it out. She's actually working on a new one that I think you guys are going to find very helpful about making money in the music business. So if you haven't subscribed to Kara's channel yet, it's one of the channels that I spend the most time producing and editing for, probably even more so than my own channel. So if you like these videos, you'll definitely love Kara's channel. Look Cozy asks, what is my favorite video that I've ever made? Ooh, let's see. So the first one I answered was about this year, but if I'm allowed to zoom out and talk about my favorite video ever made, probably the advertisement for Disrespectful 808s Volume 5. We did a really fun Breaking Bad themed video where I rented an RV, drove out to the desert, cooked up the most disrespectful 808s I possibly could, and then accidentally created this huge green explosion out in the middle of the desert when I started playing them on my MIDI keyboard. And it was crazy, and let's just say, your boy does his own stunts, and your boy does his own practical effects too. So we had a really good time making that video. Actually, Kara helped with detonate some of the explosives too, so shout out to Kara for really taking one for the team on that video shoot. I love that question, by the way, thank you. Kara said, it's such a good video, Reid smashed the editing. I appreciate that, Kara. Thank you so much. And again, if you guys haven't watched the M4 Max MacBook Pro review and you're a Logic user, boy, are you in for a treat. Tan May says, lyrics are my arch nemesis. I was never good at writing, but I hope to learn it. To what extent do you draw the line between subjective versus objective lyric writing? Man, this is a great question because a lot of times when I'm lyric writing, I write the majority of it before I even plug a single word into the vocal. And this is something that actually Kara goes over in her songwriting course at iamkara.com. And I'm going to give you a little teaser of the answer to your question, but if you want a deep dive, I highly recommend you check out that course because it's extremely informative in the entire process of songwriting. But what I always do and what Kara always does is start with a recording of gibberish that has a flow and a feel that you like. You want the syllables to be locked in, and if it feels good without any words, that's how you know it's time to go ahead and start actually coming up with the words. And sometimes you really have to stretch words or be creative with the pronunciation or kind of fudge things to make it rhyme. And your confidence in your ability to really blend things together or surprise people is what makes you a good songwriter, at least in my opinion. As far as the lyrics go. So if that's the step that you struggle on, try and separate it as much as possible from the melody and the flow and have both of those already locked in and recorded before you even start writing your first word. So I think that's my number one lyric writing tip. And obviously having a co-writer makes things infinitely easier. What do you say is the best DAW for a Rode NT1A with a Focusrite 3 solo interface on a Windows PC? If I was a Windows PC user and I needed a DAW, let's see, if I needed a free one, I would pick Luna. But if I had a little bit of a budget, I would probably go Ableton and get one of the lighter versions, maybe Ableton Standard, possibly one of the lighter ones. But I don't know, I've had really good luck with the stock plugins in Ableton. I think they sound the best out of any DAW's stock plugins. I would definitely give that award to Ableton. So if you're leaning heavily on the offerings of the plugins that come with the DAW, then I would go Ableton. Would I recommend Reaper? I personally haven't used it, so I can't say definitively yes or no. I've heard a lot of really good things about it, and I've also heard a lot of disappointed users who didn't like it as much. But I personally haven't made it past, I don't know, I've used like 7 different DAWs so far, and I'm pretty much at capacity. Unfortunately, Reaper's not one of those 7. Thank you guys so much for the birthday wishes. I really appreciate it. Someone said, I'm using, let's see, Kid Cookin says, I'm using BandLab. Do you have any tips? If you have a computer, use BandLab in your web browser. I know it's convenient to carry your phone around and have it all within that little screen, but the horizontal screen is just way easier of a layout for music production. So it'll just seem less difficult if you start in a more usable device. So number one, I'd say get a computer, and number two, I'd say get a USB mic, because that's going to be your next biggest quality booster over your phone mic or your headset or whatever you're using at first. Ooh, here's a hot take question. Tanmay asks, would I consider Pro Tools to still be an industry standard in 2025? Well, to answer that, you would have to first define what industry you're asking about. The beat making industry, the recording a singer industry, the mixing or mastering industry. Just the word industry by itself leaves the question too open-ended to give a concise answer. But if we were to break the music industry down into all the different sectors, I think we would be able to give a more concise answer. So let's say, is it the industry standard for beat making? No. The only people making beats in Pro Tools are extremely talented and good at playing musical instruments, and they don't need all the shortcuts and things that other DAWs offer. They didn't need it. They weren't going to use it if it had it, and Pro Tools is catering to that. It's very much a DAW for the talented and knowledgeable. Whereas other DAWs strive to be a software for the beginner and the entry level, and that's okay. So moving on, is Pro Tools the industry standard for audio recording? To that, I would say yes, absolutely. With their ability to punch record and get back any audio that happened before you hit the record button, that already puts them above just about any DAW you could ever record audio in. Like if you hit the punch button too late and you lost what was before that, you're all good if you're in Pro Tools. But if you're in some other DAW, you lost it. So, I mean, for that reason alone, Pro Tools is industry standard for audio recording. Now, let's say, is Pro Tools industry standard for mixing? Yes, most likely. If your job is to take other people's finished song stems, consolidate them into a new session, and just kind of organize the finished dish into a deliverable, perfected, streamlined mix, you very may well be a Pro Tools user and find that that tool set is exactly what you need, because you weren't trying to do any sound design. You weren't trying to make any loops. You weren't trying to do anything creative. You are simply refining more than creating. So yeah, Pro Tools is going to be industry standard in many mixing situations too. Now, finally, is Pro Tools industry standard for mastering? I'd say about 50% of mastering houses are hard on the Pro Tools and 50% use something else. So I would say that's the only one that's a maybe. The other ones are a more hard yes or no. Sorry, that was a long answer to a short question, but unfortunately, that's the only way it's got to be on this channel. Someone's asking new monitors, Neumann KH120. These are the KH80s behind me, and I'm actually testing out their new sub, which I think that's the 120. But yeah, I have a video coming very soon, and you guys are going to learn all about how I set these up, how I calibrated them, and also the difference before and after calibration, and the difference before and after a sub. So that's actually coming up in my next video here on this channel. It's about how to set up subwoofers in your studio. I was really curious to hear, personally, what the difference was between big speakers or little speakers with a sub. So these things are actually thumping when you pair them up with a sub. I'm really impressed. Mac Joseph says it's also Jay Dilla's birthday. Yep, and well, technically my birthday was yesterday, February 6th, but I was out on a mountain snowboarding with no service, as I like to do on my birthday. So today I'm back here celebrating with all you guys. So technically February 6th would be my birthday, and that's a shared birthday with Bob Marley and OG American baseball legend Babe Ruth. I don't know, those were just the two search results that showed up when I searched my birthday. Look Hosey asks, what's my favorite part of making a song? I would say my favorite part of making a song is after the beat is recorded and when the vocal first starts coming together and you start making those adjustments to the beat to really tailor it to the vocal, and the song just flows nicely, I'd say it's probably that point is my favorite, because that's when I start dancing and going like, yeah, 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 yeah. But, like before the singer steps in and I'm just beat making, I'm a little more focused. But once the singing steps in and I'm just engineering and I'm not beat making anymore, I could really start jamming out. And yeah, that's my favorite part. So once the vocal starts coming together over my beat, if I had to pick one point, that's my favorite point. Eli Rem Posner asked me to bring Kara on the live stream. You know what? Maybe I will at some point. I would love for her to come on the stream. Greetings from Chile. Well, greetings from Las Vegas. Thank you so much for watching. JFK says Pro Tools only still exists in the mixing and mastering industry. That's partially true, but if you work in an industry where bands still exist, like country, and drum kits are still being recorded, and you got 20 mics open at once, and you need to kind of keep track of all those recordings, I'd say they're probably still using Pro Tools at tracking studios where bands are recording, but boy, is that rare nowadays. Outside of probably country music. I think country music still has a lot of bands, but rock music is sparse nowadays. Andre says, cook some beats. Yeah, actually, that's a good idea for a live stream. I'd love to do a beat cook-up live stream. I'd have to finesse my OBS settings to set that up, but I could probably figure it out. What's my go-to writing structure for a fresh project? Well, I've been kind of veering away from the predictable structures and been trying my best to at least have some element of surprise somewhere, because there's the obvious structure where you have like a 2-bar intro, 16-bar verse, 8-bar pre-chorus, a 16-bar hook, and then you kind of repeat it. Maybe throw a bridge in the middle. But recently I've been looking for places to, maybe add an extra measure as an element of surprise, or drop an extra measure as an element of surprise. Just something to take it away from that normal 4-bar count, predictable, loopy place. Jabari Bruce says, happy birthday. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. No better way that I'd like to spend my birthday than talking music production with other music producers. It's nice to have a little community here, because no lie, music production does get kind of lonely sometimes. You're sitting in your cave day in and day out. Hopping on here and just feeling like you're not alone, it's a really nice breath of fresh air. Jabari asks, do I like Studio One? Yeah, in particular, Studio One Pro 7 is my favorite. I think that it improved leaps and bounds for music producers with this update, especially music producers who do electronic loop-based or heavily use Splice. I would say the way that they partnered with Splice and integrated Splice directly into the DAW is genius. And I wish more DAWs had the open mind to do a brand cross collaboration. Because, I'm a fan of Ableton, but honestly, Ableton could never. They would never incorporate somebody else's brand name and logo into their product. Like whenever they drop a new stock plugin, they always buy out a company, redesign their GUI, make it look exactly like every other Ableton stock plugin, which is nice and it's unifying and it's great for beginners. But I already know that Ableton's never going to get that kind of a sweet update with Splice. So yeah, shout out to Studio One Pro 7 for really making loop-based production way easier with that Splice integration, and also with their ability to globally transpose your whole song. I really appreciate that too. Great DAW with Studio One Pro 7. I think they're increasingly becoming a usable, viable option for every sector of the music industry, whereas Pro Tools is kind of heavily biased towards musicians, mixing and mastering engineers, and nobody else. Cumin Cave says, it's 2 a.m. here and watching your live. Your videos are so helpful to me. Well, thank you so much for staying up late with me. It's actually a little after noon here in Las Vegas. We're on Pacific Standard Time. Beautiful afternoon. Sun is shining. It's actually quite a shocking difference to come down from the mountain where it was snowy for it to be nice and warm out here. Ableton needs KeySync. I agree, Mac Joseph. Ableton needs KeySync like Serato Studio. That would be great. Or like Studio One. I'm totally with you. That would be a very welcome update. There's some other Ableton updates I'd really like to see, like group freezing would be really nice. And also, I would love for them to do away with the XY axis controls on VST plugins. I don't know, that black box of nothingness kind of just seems like a waste of prime real estate. And then to get to the plugin that you need, you got to hit the tiny little wrench button. I feel like they could really do something smarter with an update. I know Ableton Live is inherently a live performance software, and that's probably why the XY axis was invented, but very few of the users nowadays are using it on stage, whereas tons of users are using it in the studio with plugins. So I don't know, personally, I'd like to see that space used more handy for plugins. Ninja Nikiko says, I don't know anything about plugins or DAWs, but can a DAW help me sound better live online like karaoke? Possibly. If you sing through Auto-Tune and you have purchased a DAW and you've purchased Auto-Tune, you could probably hook it up to sing through Auto-Tune to your live stream audience. But Auto-Tune still requires you to be a decent singer to sound good live. You know, it takes a lot of fixing up to do. I've done some bad singing Auto-Tune videos, and if you watch those, you'll see it's a lot of effort to repair bad singing, and it's definitely not something that's doable live or in real time. Good questions. Why do people still place drum samples on a grid instead of using a sampler? Well, some people believe that there is a sound to certain samplers, and maybe they just want like the most transparent way to put that drum sample right on the thing. Or maybe they have a pattern that's so simple, like a 4-to-the-floor house beat, that they don't need the flexibility or swing features or any of those things that MIDI offers. They just need a kick to play on every quarter note. I don't know, some people say that in the DAW that they use, audio smacks harder than the sampler, and then some people, they say, oh, in my DAW, the sampler smacks harder than the audio. So I think there's like a different use case for everybody. Good questions, by the way, everybody. So I'm just scrolling through some of these here to make sure I didn't miss any bangers. Happy birthday. I appreciate the birthday wishes. Thank you, guys. Sorry. A lot of really kind birthday shout-outs. Thank you, everybody. Let's see. Let's scroll up. I just want to make sure I didn't miss some of the earlier comments. Hang on a second. Let's see. That's a great answer. I appreciate that. Oh, someone says, I have an XLR mic. I think that was back when I was talking about a USB mic. Let's see. I'll scroll down to the very bottom. I think I hit all the better questions above. You guys are really dropping some heat and some bangers in the comments section today. I appreciate you. Happy birthday and love to the realest puppet in the game. Thank you, 12 Ableton. I like your username. I appreciate that. Happy birthdays. I appreciate that from everybody. Thank you so much. Someone asked, is outboard gear a must for recording vocals and live instruments? I wouldn't say a must, because it's easy to find examples of people doing great work without it. But if you want the recording process to feel consistently effortless, and you want your waveforms to be consistently consistent, then I would say analog gear is a must-have. Because singing and live instruments can be very dynamic. They can almost be so dynamic that it feels spiky and unpleasant when you just raw dog a mic straight into an interface without anything in between. But when you have at least a preamp adding some saturation, then you have a little more dynamic consistency. And then you add a compressor on top of that, doing even more dynamic consistency, and boom, you got a thick and perfect waveform that has just enough peaks and valleys to still add more compression and processing later in the DAW, but your starting point is fantastic. So if you want your starting point to feel like an uphill battle, avoid hardware because it will always require some kind of extra sauce to sound radio ready. Whereas with hardware, man, it just comes in so close, it's like 90% there. Whereas without the hardware, it comes in like 40 to 50% there. But no, it's absolutely not a must because you can always use plugins to go from 40, 50% to 90 to 100. Or you could use plugins to go from 90 to 100. So it really depends on how heavily you want to rely on plugins. I personally like using plugins sparingly. I find the sweet spot to be very low when it's a compressor plugin or an EQ. Once you start pushing it extreme, it becomes really noticeable, and I don't like it. That's why I like my outboard gear to really control my mic on the way in. As far as tone, it's close to what I want. As far as dynamics, it's close to what I want. You don't have to go crazy with the plugins. That's my personal preference, but to sit here and say that it's required to sound good would be silly. JFK Production says outboard gear equals options and fun toys to play with. Absolutely. But with fun toys comes big problems. If you've ever seen like a video online of someone who owns luxury cars, they never own one luxury car. It's always like a garage full of 3 or 4. And obviously they can afford it, but there's another reason why they own 3 or 4. And that's because at any one given point, at least one of those cars is broken or needs something to be done. And the way this ties into audio is that plugins always work. Analog gear, not so much. You know, tubes have a lifespan, transistors, power supplies, all these things, fuses, blow. There's all kinds of weird, funky, gunky things that can happen inside of your extremely expensive vocal chain that those problems don't even exist in the cheaper gear. So with more possibilities comes more possible problems. So don't think that it's all just gravy and winning once you buy some analog gear. You have to maintain it. I personally ended up buying 2 different compressors just so that on any given day I'd have at least one working one. So yeah, it's not always just about the sound quality, it's about functionality too, because you're obviously sacrificing a ton of money to purchase the gear up front, but to use it on a daily basis, you're also sacrificing a lot of time because tube mics or tube compressors, they need to warm up. Tubes don't sound good until they're warm, and they don't warm up right away. So not only are you spending money to get the gear, but you're spending time every time you use it. That warm-up time to achieve that pristine level of quality that you probably bought it for doesn't come instantly. So if you're in a hurry, analog gear is probably also not for you because you don't want gear that needs to warm up to sound correct. You know, you'd probably be better off with a solid-state mic going straight into an interface. But if you have time to get a best case scenario, I can't recommend it enough. I enjoy analog gear so much that both of my desks are equipped with an analog vocal chain just because I don't like recording without it. What size backdrop do you guys use? That's a great question. These are the Savage Seamless 107-inch papers. They're measured in American inches. So these are 107 inches wide and 36 feet long. They're, if you can find a photography store where you live that carries them, go get them there. Because man, is shipping on something that size very expensive. Do I have a favorite guitar amp simulator plugin for 2025? I really like Guitar Rig by IK Multimedia. I think their newest offering is really good. And if I were to go for just a straight up pure amp simulator, it probably is still the UAD Fender guitar amp. It's pretty basic, doesn't have a ton of knobs or options. Obviously, it's an emulation of an old Fender amp, but I just think it sounds great for clean and crunch. For heavy metal distortion, I'd probably choose something else. Good questions. Someone said, analog hardware is a bit like analog synths. Although I got vintage Moogs and Rolands, I mostly use Diva and Omnisphere. Absolutely. Just like when you see some guy with a bunch of sports cars, he probably daily drives something way simpler and less, stressful and advanced. And, when you have something that is so sensitive, it's a great responsibility. And it's also a great benefit. So, yeah. Hope that answers your question. Eli Ram says, because of you guys, I made my own video shoot. Good for you. That's actually great to hear. I think video shoots are something that a lot more musicians and music producers and artists need to become familiar with, because video is how you communicate with the modern world. And music just thrives in video. Music, when paired up with an enticing visual, impacts way harder than just music by itself. John says, I got the IDX Intelligent Dynamics plugin for Black Friday last year. You should do a review. That's a great recommendation. If they reach out and give me that plugin, I would love to check it out. Recently, I've been checking out these Neumann speakers that you guys see here on the desk. These are the KHM 80s, and I also have the KHM 120 subwoofer below the desk. And my next video is going to be about how to properly set up, position, and install a subwoofer, and also calibrate it and show you guys the sound quality difference before and after the calibration, and also before and after adding a subwoofer. And we're going to be using this Neumann interface and the Neumann microphone too, so I'm all Neumanned out today. How about that? Oh, here, this isn't a question, but this is a comment. But you know what? I think as a comment, it kind of provokes a good answer. So let's check this one out. Eli says, mastering is so hard. I can agree, mastering is advanced, but it shouldn't be challenging. If you did a good job mixing, the mastering should seem effortless. Just like if you did a good job recording and producing and sound selecting, the mixing should be effortless. If mixing feels let me back up. If mastering feels impossible, then there's a good chance there are problems in your mix. And if mixing feels impossible, then there's a good chance that the problems are either within the quality of your recordings, your sound selection, or the way you've arranged sounds, maybe too many sounds on top of each other, or sounds that exist in the same frequency range happening at the same time. And mastering shouldn't be hard, because there's a lot of people who are extraordinarily lazy with it and get extremely good results with just a limiter on their final bus. And all of that goodness and quality and stuff that you like that you hear is actually coming from within the mix or the recordings, the individual quality of the individual sounds by themselves. So if you're struggling with mastering, I would say you're actually struggling with mixing and don't even realize it, because you can deliver a pretty good master with just a limiter. I know it's not like an ideal master, but you can deliver a pretty good master with just a limiter if your mix sounds right. Anas asks, Windows or Mac best? I'm guessing, is it best for music production? I'll just rephrase the question. Is Windows or Mac better for music production? For me, it's an easy choice for Mac OS. the way it integrates with audio interfaces, the way you can have two audio interfaces connected at the same time with different settings, the flexibility of integrating things with Thunderbolt. Pretty much everything is better on the Mac side when it comes to connecting an audio interface. On the Windows side, it's like I don't even know the best way to describe it. It's challenging for Windows. It's understandably challenging for Windows manufacturers to keep up. Imagine you are working for an interface company and you want to make an audio interface. Would you have an easier time being an accessory for a platform where everybody has the same exact computer and it was all made the same exact way with the same exact internal parts and the same exact ports? Or would you have an easier time making an audio interface for a platform where everybody made their computer at home, everybody bought a bunch of random parts off the internet and assembled it with varying ability levels and whatnot, varying ports, varying generations of things being merged together? It's just a recipe for disaster for accessory developers over on the Windows side, as far as the audio stuff goes. So understandably so, a lot of audio developers just don't support Windows because they don't want to open up that can of worms. Because when every user has a different Frankenstein machine, how do you even reliably offer good customer support for anything? So whenever a company doesn't support Windows, I totally understand, because from a research and development, product development, coding, night and day easier on Mac. And this is what I hear from friends who develop audio products all the time. So as a user, I would be a Mac user just because it guarantees stability and it guarantees compatibility. That doesn't mean that your DAW won't crash or plugins won't crash your DAW or whatever. That happens everywhere. But as far as giving these companies the best chance at being a good company, the best user experience is going to be over on the Mac side. And sorry, that was again a very long answer to a very short question, but it is what it is. Yes, so it looks like a few people agree Mac is best, particularly because it's most stable for music and video production. Yeah, I agree. It might not be the most affordable, but it is definitely the most stable and the most trustworthy. If your income that you're feeding your family with depends on this computer working correctly and being upgradable and integratable, yeah, Mac is a safe choice. JFK says, used Windows for decades, and after switching to M1 Macs last October, my workflow has only improved. Yes, and I've recently upgraded from M1 Macs to M4, and holy cow. I thought computers couldn't get any better when I got my M1, and this M4 just came and smoked it. 32 buffer sample size was not an attainable setting for me before this M4 computer set came around. And since I've upgraded, my buffer size in every DAW has been 32, always, at all times, no matter what. I don't turn it up, and I'm not going to, unless I have to open up an old computer for whatever reason. Someone said Mac OS is based off Unix, and that's enough said. I'm not although I may sound like a computer nerd, I'm not nerdy enough to know what that means. Martin says, hello, Reid, Stefan. Greetings from Germany. Thank you so much. Nice to have you here, and greetings from Las Vegas. What is my go-to video editor, DaVinci or Premiere? I'm a full-time DaVinci user, but if you asked me before 2020, I would have said Premiere. After 2020, I used Final Cut for a little bit, and then for the last 2 years, I've been using DaVinci Resolve, and I think I'm going to be using DaVinci for a good long time. Baptiste asks, Apollo or Neumann audio interface, which one is better? Well, it depends what workflow you value or what features you value. If you're shopping for an interface simply for the best sound quality, and you don't care about the user interface, and you don't care about the special add-on features, and you don't care about a big compatible list of plugins that comes with it, then you'll probably like the Neumann MT48 better. It sounds better, but it's a little bit uglier user interface. But it sounds better. So for some people, that's enough said. But other users are so intertwined into the user interface and the customer experience and the headphone mix that you can set up in console and the DSP that helps your computer not be under so much stress while you produce, and all of those UAD plugins and emulations that you get access to. If those are valuable to you, then Apollo is an easy choice, no questions. Give me the Apollo all day, every day. Personally, I've been an Apollo user for the past 10 years. And for the past 2 years, I've had both an Apollo and a Neumann here in my studio. And for something like a live stream where I don't need a headphone mix, I don't need to fiddle with the reverbs and compressors and EQs inside the thing. It's just plain old-fashioned inputs. Yeah, Neumann's a little easier and more streamlined. But if I was running an actual session with an actual vocalist on the mic and they needed an actual headphone mix, you best believe I'd put my Apollo in there. The marginal improvement in sound quality that you get by upgrading to the Neumann, you take a huge, huge hit in GUI, which is graphic user interface, and convenience in your headphone mix. So just be warned. Apollo is like extremely easy to use, whereas Neumann sounds extremely good. What are my thoughts on the Barefoot Footprint 03s? They cost only $2,000. I think that's going to be a smoking hot deal for $2,000. I like Barefoots a lot, and I've used them in 3 different studios. I've used the Micromains, not the small Footprint 03s, but you really can't go wrong with Barefoot monitors, and in the $2,000 ballpark, you really can't go wrong. Kitcherbeak says, greetings from South Africa. Finally got to watch you live. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I'm very happy to have you here. And also thank you to everybody who's been dropping the birthday wishes in the comments below. If you guys it's been a while since I even acknowledged this banner that I have going on here. So for everybody who's joining here recently, today we're celebrating my birthday. And to celebrate, we are hosting a 50% off promo code at wholeloops.com, which means when you check out, you enter the promo code REID, R-E-I-D, at checkout, and your total will drop by 50%. Boom. So that's a fun way to celebrate the birthday with half off all the sauce, Ableton presets, drum kits, courses, and more, all at wholeloops.com. So definitely check it out because this promo code does expire at the end of February. I'm going to be celebrating for the entire birthday month, but since today's my birthday, we're kicking it off today. Ooh, Indonesia Records asks, Neumann, Apogee, or Prism? This is a good question. Let's see. If you want effects in your headphone mix, I would go Neumann. If you want the best sound quality, Neumann or Prism. Man, it's hard to tell who sounds better. They're really both up there. Maybe Prism would edge it out slightly. Titan also has a little bit more analog input and output kind of simplicity than Neumann does. And then, what was the third option? Apogee, I'm not super familiar with, but I know it sounds great the few times that I have used it. I use my Prism Titan probably the most out of all those options. I appreciate the birthday wishes. Thank you, guys. It's so much fun spending time with you guys and other fellow producers and musicians and engineers and people who are just passionate about making music. Just a fun way to spend your birthday. Let's get to some more questions here. I've seen some good ones. What are my thoughts about RME interfaces? Well, I haven't tried them yet, but I don't think I would buy one simply for the fact that the XLR inputs come out the front. I don't know. I just think from an aesthetics standpoint, that's kind of messy. I like having all the clutter come out the back of the device, especially if it's a rack-mounted audio interface. The only thing coming out the front should be your headphone jacks. But I'm sure it sounds excellent. That's obviously not a comment about the sound quality. I've never even heard them before. I've just seen pictures and said, oh man, they put the XLRs on the front. Next. But if they gave me one, I would love to give it a fair test. And you know what? Who knows? I might actually like it better than my other interfaces. What mic am I using right now? Well, behind me I have a Neumann TLM49, but that's actually not the mic that you're hearing me through. Just off camera, I have a Lewitt Ray. And believe it or not, it's only a $300 microphone. And it's a really good microphone for live streaming because if you get really close to it or really far away from it, it negates the proximity effect that you would have ordinarily heard in any other microphone. So it's also got a mute button, which is hilariously simple, but there's no other condenser microphone on the market with a mute button. Only dynamic microphones have a switch. So yeah, really useful for live streaming. Shout out to Lewitt microphones for some of the most affordable, high quality microphones in the game. Where can I find your best bass and 808 sounds to purchase? That would be wholeloops.com/drum kits. And then on that page, you will see a pack called Disrespectful 808s. And if you're looking for the most recent one, go for volume 5. But if you want the full collection, then go for the Disrespectful bundle, which is volumes 1 through 5, all in one download. And I highly recommend using the promo code REID for 50% off at wholeloops.com. And that even applies to bundles. And the bundles were already a good deal. So you're getting 50% off an already disrespectfully good price. So definitely check out wholeloops.com for the fattest, most disrespectful 808s your neighbors have ever heard. Tan May asks, if you wanted to simplify your workflow, what 3 things would you potentially change? Number 1, stay completely in the box for your production, mixing, and mastering workflow. Having analog synths or analog gear in your mix, and oh my God, recalling those settings if you had to open a different project or switch, just sounds like a nightmare. So number 1, stay completely in the box. The only time I go out of the box, like I said, is I record my mic through a preamp and compressor. The preamp EQ is on, but I'm not really EQing the mic in any way that boosts or reduces anything. It's just on so that the audio passes through those extra components. That would be my number 1 way to simplify my workflow, is to just avoid implementing any important analog thing, unless I'm tracking it in as a stem and just committing to it from the jump. Another thing I do to simplify my workflow is, let's see, I like presets and loops and samples. And I like sampling little things out of loops or flipping samples into a different pitch or sound or whatever. But I would say collect all of your different sounds onto one hard drive and keep it external. That's really helped me simplify my workflow, because that way, no matter what computer I'm bouncing around to or working on, I have all of my virtual instruments, all of my drum kits, all of my everything with me at all times. So I would say definitely have a good organized external hard drive and have a good in-the-box workflow. Neve 1073 or BAE 1073 hardware. Me personally, I would always rather take a modern manufactured product over a vintage thing. I know everybody likes to drool over the old stuff from the 70s, 80s, or before that, or whatever. But for me, I would prefer something that was manufactured more recently and has parts available or support still actively available. It's already hard enough to keep like a high-end thing running. So when you have like a vintage high-end thing, man, that's even harder to keep running smooth. So I would always choose the BAE over the actual Neve version just for convenience and simplicity and peace of mind. Although maybe in an A/B test, you could probably find circumstances where a vintage one would be sonically better. For my workflow and just my desk, and I just don't want like an antique sitting in my desk. I'd rather have something modern. Let's see. What other questions do we have? Someone said especially stage mics. Oh, probably talking about the on-off switch. Yeah, absolutely. Super useful to have an on-off switch. Someone said, hope this doesn't come off as rude, but how do you feel about your channel not doing so good anymore? Is that a reason for more placements these days? Hope I'm not being disrespectful. No, it's not a disrespectful question at all. Let's see. Reason number one, I've been posting a little less than usual to help build another channel. And that channel is going fantastic. So I knew when I started producing videos for Kara's channel that I would be posting a little bit less often, which means that your viewership naturally declines, and that's okay. Reason number two is I've been reviewing products that I'm a little bit more interested in personally, rather than things that are like mass interest. I'm not the type of channel to like put a famous person's name in the video as if I know their production techniques, or as if I'm about to teach you somebody else's like sauce. I don't know. I always just found that a little bit silly. So I know that I could throw the word Travis Scott in a title in a vocal effects tutorial and get more clicks, but I'm just not gonna, because I didn't mix a Travis Scott song. Those are probably the main two reasons. And let's see, I've been reviewing a lot of products and stuff recently too. There's been a huge kind of deficiency in places that people can go to actually hear and demonstrate and compare new products. So I've kind of enjoyed being able to step up and be that place where, even though it's not as fun and glamorous, you can hear what Prism Titan sounds like next to a Neumann. Obviously that's not like a viral upload or anything. It's just something a little bit more analytical or helpful for someone to go from like intermediate to advanced. So yeah, not everything is going to be like a huge clickbait thing, and that's okay. Someone asked, what is the other channel I'm working on? And that channel is Kara's channel. So if you search for Karra and type studio session after, you'll find some of our recent and most favorite work. I think the experience that we've been providing to show people like how to make a song from scratch and record all of yourself over a beat that you made yourself and then mix it and master it yourself. I don't know, that's just something really special, and it takes a team effort, and we're a two-person team over on Kara's channel. So yeah, it's fun to be able to venture into a whole different kind of category of content. And then here on my channel, I'm sticking to more product reviews.
Someone asked me to come on live, so I'm here.
Kara's here. What's up, everybody? We got a birthday cameo from Kara.
Yeah, just going off of what he was saying, Reid is the mastermind behind all of my tutorials on my channel, so you definitely have to check them out. They are incredible.
I appreciate that. Yeah, if you like watching my channel and you want an even more, potent experience, go check out Kara's channel. Someone said, I subscribed. I didn't. Look at Kara, you got another subscriber.
Hey,
woo!
Thank you.
Someone said Neumann, more like Neuwoman. All right, that's a fair, that joke connected. I like that. Technically was a joke. Let's see. Art says, hi Reid, happy birthday, big fan. Going back to interfaces, I watched your PreSonus vid on their new interfaces. Did you keep the Quantum HD8? Yes, I absolutely did keep the Quantum HD8. I still have it, and I still plan on using it. And when I'm using Studio One, I actually like using my Quantum interface because of the way it integrates with Studio One's gain knobs right in the mixer. Really useful. So when I'm using Studio One, I prefer using my Quantum interface. Great question. And great cameo from Kara. Someone says, Kara, you're very inspiring. We appreciate it. We hope to inspire you guys to make music, and women too. And in particular with Kara's channel, we think it's a great way to show females that music production is accessible to every female everywhere. So I think just seeing a woman do it is extremely valuable to other women, and I'm happy to be able to provide that experience and open the doors for as many people as possible. Because obviously there's a lot of guys on my channel. I look at the analytics. It is mostly males. So it was a challenge that both of us set out to say what kind of music production content that we can make that would make women really want to watch it and sit through the whole thing. And men too. You know, it's not obviously content for women. It's just content featuring a woman. We got time for a few more questions. And I appreciate the birthday wishes for you guys. I'm going to pick one more, and then we're going to get out of here. So it's going to be a good one. Ooh, I like this one. What was the first DAW I ever worked in? The first DAW that I ever worked in was actually not even a DAW. It was the audio channels inside of a video editing application. I had Sony Vegas, was an old video editing app, kind of like Adobe Premiere. And my very first beats and recordings I made using the audio channels in a video editing app that was on the computer. And then later, I discovered that they had Sony Acid, which was specifically for music. And yeah, ever since then, I went from Sony Acid to Reason to Logic to Ableton and Pro Tools and beyond. Excellent question. So we're going to wrap it up from here. Thank you guys all so much for coming and celebrating my annual Realest Puppet birthday celebration live stream. If you want to get 50% off your order at wholeloops.com, enter my personal promo code REID at checkout, and your price will drop by 50%. And that applies to all the bundles, drum kits, sauces, and everything in between at wholeloops.com. So now is the best time of the year to stock up on all the sauce. And we actually have some very exciting new products coming in the courses department at the end of February. So stay tuned, and we'll catch you guys next time. And thank you all so much for watching. Oh, this live stream came out to be almost exactly 60 minutes. So I appreciate all the great questions, and I'll catch you guys next time in another stream.